I was already sitting in the waiting room of the private women's clinic, holding ticket number 37 in my hand, when I looked through the glass at the reception counter and saw him. The doctor who was supposed to terminate my pregnancy. The man I had slept with 3 months ago. He didn't look shocked. Didn't even blink. Just met my gaze through the glass partition with a calmness that made me shiver. Like he'd known all along that I'd show up again. But that night in October outside the Phoenix, I had no idea who he was. I only knew one thing. My husband, Daniel, was kissing a 20-year-old stylist intern at our company party in front of everyone. Not in secret. Not in shame. Right there, under the lights, with champagne in hand and our coworkers watching. 8 years of marriage collapsed in one instant. 8 years of building our beauty business together. 8 years of trying for a baby that never came. Daniel always said, "We've got time, Claire. Don't stress." Apparently, he was in a hurry, just not with me. I ran out of the club without my coat. The cold hit me like a slap across the face. And that's when I saw him crumpled near the service exit. He was maybe 30. Disheveled. Drunk. Bloody lip. Curled against the brick wall. The bouncers hovered over him, arguing. "He's got an ID. He's breathing. Just leave him. Throw him out past the gate. Not our problem." I don't know what came over me. Maybe I saw my own pain in his broken shape. Maybe I just wanted to do something wild and self-destructive, something to hurt Daniel the way he'd hurt me. "He's with me," I said suddenly. "I'll take him." The man could barely walk, but when I slipped my arm under his, he looked at me with startlingly clear eyes. "Thanks," he whispered hoarsely. "Don't speak," I said. "Just come with me." We got in a cab. He mumbled an address, quiet street, old brick buildings. I remember thinking, what am I doing? Where is this going? But the thought of Daniel still at the party, pretending to look for me, laughing with that girl, kept me moving forward. His apartment was surprisingly clean. Books, medical textbooks, a made bed, a tidy kitchen. He muttered an apology and went straight to the shower. I stood alone in the middle of his living room, still wearing heels, still shaking. When he returned barefoot in sweatpants, hair wet, he looked like a completely different man. Calm, tired, beautiful in a way I didn't expect. "My name's Evan," he said. "I don't understand why you helped me." I didn't answer. Instead, I stepped forward and kissed him. He didn't stop me. He didn't touch me either. He just let me. We made love slowly, like two people trying to forget, not to feel. I woke up to the smell of coffee. For a moment, I didn't recognize the room. The clean lines, the soft light filtering through pale curtains, the hum of a kettle. Then I remembered. The bar, the bouncer, the man on the ground, the apartment, the mistake. I sat up, the sheet slipping off my shoulder. In the kitchen, he moved quietly. Evan, hair still damp, dressed, focused on his phone. He had laid out 2 mugs and a small plate with toast. "Morning," he said without looking up. "I don't know your name." A wave of shame crashed over me. What had I done? I had cheated on my husband. With a complete stranger? Because I saw him with another woman? What was this, revenge? A breakdown? "Claire," I murmured, grabbing my coat. "I should go." "Wait," he said, stepping forward. "Are you okay?" I avoided his eyes. I was already stuffing my phone into my bag. "Nothing happened," I said. "This was a mistake." And before he could reply, I left. Down the stairs, out the building, into the gray morning. Daniel was already home when I walked in. He sat at the kitchen table with a mug of tea, scrolling through something on his phone. When he saw me, he smiled. Smiled. "Hey, runaway bride? Got overwhelmed by the party?" I stared at him, at the man I'd spent 8 years loving. How was he talking to me like nothing happened? "Daniel," I started. I've been thinking, he interrupted. Maybe it's time we really start trying for a baby. You've always wanted one. And now the business is stable. He said it like he meant it, like he hadn't just kissed someone else in front of our entire team. For a split second, I wavered. Maybe I imagined it? Maybe it was just a hug? A bad angle? A stupid misunderstanding? He stood, walked to me, wrapped his arms around me, and then I smelled it. Faint, sweet perfume. Not mine. Where were you last night? I asked softly. Looking for you, he said, without missing a beat. Then I came home. Thought maybe you'd already left early. Lieutenant, a bold, practiced, soulless lie. I said nothing, just let him hold me. Let the quiet settle. But inside me, something cracked. Every morning started the same. I would wake up next to Daniel, stare at the ceiling, and whisper to myself, today I'll tell him. And every night I'd lie down beside him again, silent. Like nothing had changed, but it had. Everything had. A week after the party, I started getting nauseous. At first, I told myself it was stress, work, guilt, lack of sleep. But when I realized my period was 10 days late, I knew. I didn't buy the test at the pharmacy near our place. I took an Uber across town to a little 24-hour store I'd never been in before. Just in case someone recognized me. Just in case someone told Daniel. I took the test in the store bathroom. Couldn't even wait until I got home. 2 lines. Bright. Immediate. No doubt. I stared at the plastic strip in my hand, sitting on the edge of a cracked toilet seat, and tried to breathe. Pregnant. Me. By who? Daniel and I had sex that week, out of routine, not passion. But I also remembered Evan. That night. The dates blurred, overlapping in the worst possible way. It could be either of them or neither. I hid the test in the bottom of my makeup bag, then went home, washed my face, and walked into the kitchen like everything was fine. Daniel was eating cereal and reading his phone. Hey, babe, he said, not looking up. Everything okay? Yeah, fine. That was my first lie in what would become a new chapter of carefully chosen silence. The days passed in a fog. I smiled at work. I answered calls, I nodded in meetings, but inside me something was shifting. I wasn't ready for this, not the baby, not the secret, not the math of it all. Daniel was still charming, still acting like the perfect husband, but I could feel the cracks beneath it. He came home later than usual, took calls in the bathroom, turned his phone screen down at dinner. And still, I said nothing, because now I had my own secret. Some nights I found myself staring at the mirror, holding my stomach. 6 weeks? Tiny. Silent. But there. Was I really going to do this? Could I raise a child when I didn't even know whose it was? One night, while Daniel watched a game on the couch, I sat beside him with my laptop open. I wasn't doing work. I was on forums, researching DNA tests, reading stories of women who'd been here before. His phone buzzed, again and again. He didn't even flinch. On the screen, a name flashed. Maddie. The preview said, I miss you. You promised you'd tell her. He promised to someone else. And still, he was here, pretending. That night after he fell asleep, I went into the bedroom and opened the drawer where we kept insurance forms and old prescriptions. I pulled out the brochure for a women's clinic I'd picked up years ago back when we thought we couldn't have kids. There was a number on the back. I dialed it with shaking hands. Women's Health Center, how can I help you? I need to schedule an appointment. What kind of appointment, ma'am? I hesitated. Termination. How far along? About 6 weeks. We can see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. or the day after at 11. What works for you? Tomorrow. When I returned to the living room, Daniel was still staring at the TV. I've got a supplier meeting with Steve tomorrow, he mumbled, eyes fixed on the screen. Might be home late. Okay, I said. And that was the second lie. Tomorrow, I would be at the clinic, alone, carrying a secret bigger than both of us. The city was barely awake when I left the apartment. Daniel was in the shower. I had packed my things quietly, no noise, no makeup, just a scarf around my neck and a sense of numbness settling into my chest. In my coat pocket, ticket number 37. The cab dropped me in front of the clinic. The sign above the door read, Women's Health Center, white letters on pale green glass. Inside, everything smelled like disinfectant and lavender. Too clean. Too calm. The waiting room was full of women, some alone, some with friends or partners. No one spoke. We all looked down at our hands, at the floor, at invisible spots on the wall. My name was never called, just the number. 37? I stood, legs shaky, hands gripping my purse so tight it left marks. The nurse led me down a long hallway. Pale walls, soft lights, doors with numbers. Room 3, doctor, Carter will see you. She smiled, like this was just a checkup. I stepped inside and froze. Behind the desk, in a white coat, reading a chart, was him. Evan. He looked up slowly. His face didn't change right away, just froze. Recognition flickered in his eyes, then something softer. Claire, he said. The sound of my name from his mouth, in this place, in this context, hit like a stone. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Please sit, he said gently, motioning to the chair across from his desk. I sat, rigid, clutching my bag like it might save me. The room was quiet, just the distant hum of traffic and the ticking of the clock on the wall. He looked at the chart in his hand, then back at me. You're here for termination? Yes, I said, but my voice cracked. He set the chart down. Are you certain? I am, I said quickly. Too quickly, but Evan didn't press. He just looked at me. Not judging, not shocked, but sad. May I tell you something? He asked. I nodded barely. He folded his hands, took a breath. That night, the night we met, I just buried my father. Cancer. It was fast, brutal. The wake was held at that club because he used to love it. Thought it was funny. Wanted his send-off to be loud and stupid and full of bad dancing. He smiled for a second. A crooked, broken smile. Afterward, I drank more than I ever had in my life. First time I ever blacked out. I thought I'd die on that sidewalk. Then you came. My eyes burned. I looked away. My hands were shaking in my lap. You saved me, he said simply. And now I'm the one sitting here, about to end a life that might be mine. That sentence, that word ours, filled the room with silence. It's not your responsibility, I whispered. You don't have to say that, he said, but you're afraid, and that's okay. The tears came suddenly, hot and heavy. My husband's cheating on me, I blurted. He wants to leave. I don't know who the father is. I can't do this alone. He didn't flinch. And so, you're choosing not to do it at all? I choked on a sob. Don't say it like that. I'm not here to stop you, he said calmly. If this is truly what you want, I'll help you do it safely. But you need to know, you're not alone, no matter what happens. You're not alone. He stood, walked to a cabinet, pulled out a folded sheet of paper and placed it on the table. An ultrasound appointment slip. You don't have to decide now. You can take this. Think it over. Come back tomorrow if you're sure. I nodded, stood up slowly, numb. At the door, he said one more thing. Claire, whatever you choose, I'm not walking away from this. I walked out, down the hallway, out the building. And only when I was halfway down the block did I realize I'd left the referral paper behind. I found the ultrasound referral in the trash that evening. It was wrinkled, torn in one corner, and had my name scrawled at the top. I dropped it, maybe on purpose, maybe not, just outside the clinic. Someone must have tossed it. Daniel wasn't home when I got back. I told myself I didn't care, but I did. The apartment was quiet, sterile. I ran a bath and tried to disappear into the steam. The hot water wrapped around me like silence, but nothing drowned out the questions, the doubt, the fear. I got out, wrapped myself in a towel, and sat on the edge of our bed, staring at the crumpled paper in my hand. The tiny smudge of a fetus circled in red ink. 6 weeks. That's when the heart starts beating. The size of a lentil, they said. I lay back and placed both hands on my stomach. I didn't feel anything, but somehow I knew. Daniel came home after midnight. I was awake but pretending to sleep. He reeked of aftershave not his and something sweet and foreign. He undressed in the dark and crawled into bed like nothing was wrong. Didn't say a word. Lying beside him, I could feel the space between us stretch wider than ever. And inside me something stirred. Not in my body, in my mind. It was a click. A quiet, final click, like a door closing. In the morning, I didn't make breakfast, didn't brush my hair, didn't wait for Daniel to kiss my head or fake a smile. I waited for the front door to close behind him. Then I packed a suitcase. 2, actually. I didn't take everything. Just the things that mattered. My grandmother's bracelet, a handful of clothes, my laptop, and the folded stained ultrasound paper. I took a cab across town to a friend's apartment. Stayed long enough to send one text to my boss and another to Daniel. I need some time. Please don't come looking. Then I turned my phone off. Later that evening, I found a small apartment near the edge of the city. High ceilings, old windows, quiet street. It smelled like dust and paint. But it was mine. I didn't cry that night. I thought I would. But I just lay on the mattress, hands over my stomach, feeling the silence. And I thought of Evan, how calm his voice was, how he said you're not alone. I wasn't sure that was true yet, but it was the first thing in weeks that felt real. It had been 10 days since I left. 10 days of silence. No calls from Daniel, maybe because I never turned my phone back on. No messages, no questions, no apologies. Maybe that was his way of confirming everything. The new apartment slowly started to look lived in. A second-hand couch, a kettle that clicked too loudly. Curtains I found at a street market. I worked remotely. I avoided people. I slept a lot, or not at all, but I was still here. I ate when I could. I read baby forums at night, mostly in the dark. Sometimes I cried, not from regret, from the weight of starting over. On the 11th day, there was a knock. 3 slow taps, not urgent, not demanding. I opened the door with hesitation, then froze. Evan, standing in jeans and a dark sweater, holding a brown paper bag in one hand and something else in the other. A thermos. He smiled carefully. Hey. I stepped aside without thinking. He walked in, looked around the bare room. You've done well, he said gently. It's temporary. Everything is. He placed the bag on the counter. Soup and crackers and some prenatal vitamins, just in case. He didn't say if you kept the baby. He didn't ask. He just accepted. That somehow mattered more than anything. We ate in silence. I sat at the little table by the window. He poured soup into chipped bowls and handed me one without a word. It was warm. Carrot, maybe. Too much garlic. Perfect. You didn't have to come, I said finally. I know. He wiped his hands on a napkin and leaned back, watching me. I've been thinking about that night, he said. A lot. Not because of what happened, but because of what it led to. This isn't your responsibility. Maybe not, but that doesn't mean I'll walk away. That phrase again. Not because I have to, because he chooses to. I stood and went to the kitchen to refill our tea. When I turned back, he was holding something, a tiny stuffed fox I hadn't noticed him bring. Saw it in a shop window on the way here, he said. Thought, maybe. I sat down, held the fox in both hands. Software fuzzy. Pointless. Precious. Evan, what if it's not yours? He met my eyes. Calm. Sure. Then it's not. But you are. And so is this baby. I didn't answer, but I didn't pull away when he reached across the table and placed his hand lightly on mine. That night, after he left, I found the little fox sitting on the windowsill. It looked out into the city, lit by late September haze. And for the first time in weeks, I smiled. Just a little. Because maybe, just maybe, I wasn't alone anymore. It was a Tuesday. Gray sky, early drizzle. I had just gotten out of the shower when the knock came. This one wasn't gentle, it was sharp, fast, repeated. 3 seconds later, again. I wrapped the towel tighter around me, heart thudding. Then I looked through the peephole. Daniel, in a leather jacket holding nothing but his fists clenched at his sides. Behind him, a tall man in a suit. My stomach turned. I opened the door an inch. Claire? His voice was flatter than I remembered. Colder, like he had practiced it in the mirror. You're hard to find. Not really, you just stopped looking. The man behind him cleared his throat. I'm Stephen, Daniel's attorney. Of course. Daniel nodded toward my stomach, small, now visibly rounding beneath my loose sweater. I'm here to talk about that. I didn't speak. Let's not make this harder than it is, Daniel continued. We need a DNA test. I have rights. My jaw clenched. You have obligations, Daniel. Rights come after those. You think I'm going to pay for someone else's kid? You were going to leave me for someone half my age. That's irrelevant now. He took a step forward. I didn't move. If it's mine, I want full custody. If it's not, I want legal assurance I'm not responsible financially. The nerve. The pure, galling nerve of a man who hadn't called once since I left. You want a test? I said. Fine. Get a court order. I'm not stopping you. Daniel's face hardened. Claire, be reasonable. Oh, I was. For 8 years. I started to close the door. His lawyer said something under his breath, but I didn't care. You're making a mistake, Daniel snapped. Number I already made it. 8 years ago. This I placed a hand on my belly. This is me undoing it. I shut the door. He didn't knock again. That night, Evan came by. He brought groceries, a pair of socks for me, fuzzy because you always forget to wear them, and a milkshake I hadn't asked for. You okay? He asked the second he saw my face. I didn't speak. I just fell into his arms. He held me for a long time. Afterward, we sat on the floor. The ultrasound picture was still stuck to the fridge with a magnet. The tiny heartbeat. The little shape. He's trying to scare you, Evan said. It almost worked. It didn't. He leaned in. Quiet. Gentle. You don't have to fight alone. I looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time, I let myself believe he meant it. The next morning, I didn't wake up to fear. I woke up to light. Soft September sun poured through the window, catching dust motes in the air. Evan had stayed over not in my bed, but on the couch. He insisted. You need sleep, he'd said. Real sleep. Without worry. He was already up, folding the blanket. Quiet. Intentional. There was something sacred in the way he moved, like every motion was a promise, not to break the stillness I'd finally found. I was going to make breakfast, he said, smiling. But you don't have any eggs, or bread, or anything. We could go out, I offered. Really? His eyes lit up, like, outside? Like people do. We both laughed. It felt good, like sneezing after holding it in. We ended up at a small diner a few blocks away. Nothing fancy. A tiny place with chipped mugs, real butter, and the smell of bacon in the air. He ordered pancakes with strawberries. I got oatmeal and orange juice, my usual, since I started feeling sick in the mornings. Claire, he said after a while, running a finger along the rim of his cup, can I ask something strange? Sure. Would it change anything for you if the baby was mine? I looked up. The question was simple. The weight behind it was not. I don't know, I said honestly. Not because it doesn't matter, but because you didn't wait to find out before showing up. He nodded slowly. You already chose us, I added. Yes. There was a pause. Not uncomfortable. Do you want to know? I asked. Do you? I stirred my oatmeal, thinking, and then I shook my head. Not right now. Not if it means changing anything. Then we don't, he said. Just like that, no drama, no pressure, only peace. Later that day, I opened my laptop. Daniel had emailed twice. The subject line on the second, DNA or court. I didn't open it. I just forwarded it to the attorney a friend had recommended. Then I archived the conversation. Like a box you don't want to look at anymore. That evening, Evan helped me put together a crib. We laughed over the instructions, got screws mixed up, argued playfully about where it should go. When it was done, we stood back and stared at it empty and waiting. It's starting to feel real, I whispered. It is real, he said, and it's ours, however that looks. We didn't kiss that night. We didn't need to. But he stayed. And when I woke up, it was to the sound of him humming in the kitchen, flipping pancakes in a too-small pan. And I thought, this is how something good begins. Not loudly, not all at once, but in small, consistent choices. It started at 2:17 in the morning. A dull ache wrapped around my lower back, slow at first, like a reminder. I ignored it. But 20 minutes later, the pain returned. Sharper, more demanding. I sat up in bed, breath caught in my throat. Evan stirred on the couch across the room. You okay? He mumbled, rubbing his eyes. I think... I swallowed. It's happening. By the time we got to the hospital, the contractions were 5 minutes apart. I held onto Evan's hand like it was the only real thing in the world. Inside the delivery room, the lights were too bright, the voices too loud. I could barely think. But Evan didn't leave. Not once. He stood by me through every scream, every breath, every whispered curse. He wiped my forehead with a damp cloth and whispered, You're not alone. I've got you. Just a little more. And when it was time, when the doctor said one last push, I closed my eyes and let go. Then silence. And then a cry. Thin and sharp and brand new. They placed her on my chest, warm, damp, fragile. I stared at her in awe. Evan's hand hovered over her tiny fingers. She's here, I whispered. She's perfect, he said. He looked like he was about to cry. We named her Elizabeth. No Tess, no doubt. She was ours. 3 days later, Daniel showed up. He stood in the doorway of my hospital room with a bouquet of lilies and a gift bag filled with designer baby clothes. I wanted to meet her, he said. Evan was changing Liz's diaper in the corner. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. I nodded toward the bassinet. Daniel walked over and stared down at her. She's... His voice cracked. She looks like you. She looks like herself, I replied. We should do a paternity test, he said suddenly, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Why? To know. To know what, Daniel? That you have a daughter you didn't want? He looked stunned. I continued. You had your chance to be her father. You chose Katya. You chose lies. Claire, I'm sorry. I made a mistake number. You made a choice, and I made mine. He didn't stay long, didn't hold her, didn't argue. Just stood there until Evan gently placed a hand on my shoulder. Daniel left without another word. That night, Liz fell asleep on Evan's chest while I watched the rain roll down the hospital window. We're really doing this, I whispered. Evan smiled. We've been doing it all along. 6 months later, the world looked different. Liz was teething, giggling, crawling at full speed toward anything she wasn't supposed to touch. The apartment smelled like oatmeal and baby wipes. Sleep was rare, peace was rare, but so was regret. On a warm June evening, we sat in the park not far from our building. Evan was flipping through a medical journal, and I was answering emails from my little online shop. Liz was a few feet away, sitting in the sandbox with a plastic shovel in her hand and dirt on her nose. Every few seconds, she'd look back at us, just to check that we were still there. "She's so independent already," Evan said. "She gets it from you," I smiled. "No," he laughed. "You. You're the one who walked away when it was the hardest." I didn't answer, because I still wasn't sure if that was bravery or survival. We sat in silence, surrounded by the quiet hum of summer. Dogs barking in the distance, a lawnmower buzzing, children laughing. Normal things. Things I never imagined would feel like peace. Then Evan put down his book. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Of course. Do you ever wish you knew for sure? About Liz, I mean. Whether she's mine or—" He didn't finish the sentence. I looked at our daughter now trying to bury her tiny sandals in the sand. "No," I said softly. "She's ours. That's all that matters." He exhaled slowly. "Okay," he nodded. "Just needed to hear you say it." A breeze moved through the trees above us, rustling the leaves like a quiet applause. Evan reached over and took my hand. Not tightly, not possessively, just gently. "We're not exactly a traditional family," I said. "No," he agreed, "but I don't think love cares much about tradition." Liz squealed at something in the dirt, lifted it proudly toward us. Evan laughed and got up to see what treasure she'd found. I watched them, my daughter and the man who wasn't her biological father, but never once felt like a stranger. And I realized something. This wasn't the life I planned, but it was the life I chose. Every day, with open eyes and a tired heart, and for the first time in a very long time, I felt like that choice was enough.